Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And welcome back, everybody. There is a current trend for people making changes to their businesses, making changes to the overall look of their homes. And you can't do anything unless you have somebody designing that. And that would be a great architect. And we've got one for you today. He joins us. Mr. John Riggio is with us. Hi, John. How are you doing?
Good. Hello. How are you?
Oh, it's great to have you here. Yeah, I am a big fan of architecture. I'll tell you personally, like I could drive to a different city and just look at the look of buildings and how they're constructed. And do you work with, as an architect, do you work with residential and commercial as well?
Yes, I do. I do both kinds of work. I do a variety of different types of work: residential, commercial, industrial, medical, public, things like that. I do a whole variety of work.
Gotcha. And before we even get into current trends about architecture and really the background, what about you? How did this all begin for you to become an architect? Because it's very unique. Not everybody does that.
Yes, really what happened is to become an architect really started when I was young. What happened, like in school, I went to the public elementary school, and they usually give students aptitude tests and things like that. And my aptitude for one of a number of different careers, one of them was to work as an architect. And I took their recommendation seriously. I mean, I think all the students were given some advice at this time of what they thought was a good idea. And I took that advice seriously. And where I lived, just by chance, they had an awful lot of classes that are really good for architects. So one of them was mechanical drawing, that whole series of mechanical drawing classes and all kinds of other classes that are really good for that kind of work. And I took all of those courses, and it really gave me a basic start in knowing what that type of profession is all about. And so from there were some other considerations. I think one of the considerations was really working for myself. An architect, I could work for myself, and that's pretty good. I think the job was it's a good quality job. It has it's a good level of work, so it was good to strive for. A lot of people, when I was in college and things, training for it, they used to say things reminding me and other students that the work was a good, important work, maybe similar to doing one of the other board professions that they have. So that is one thing. Another thing was flexible time. A flexible time was good. When I was younger, I had different things going on that I wanted to keep a flexible schedule. So that is why I pursued architect work. And I've been able to achieve with the work, with the studies of the work. I was able to do very good as far as the class work is concerned with college, and then in the profession, I really took to using the computer was really one line of work that got me into the profession. One thing was to achieve in college, and the next thing was to try to get into the profession, to get a job and really to get experience so you can get a license. And that is one key thing that I used was the CAD drafting. I was really one of the first people graduating that really started to work with the computers. And when I worked for each office, I was like the one who really gave them the advice to start working with computers, making computer drawings. So that was my big step into the field of architect work, and I was able to get experience that way. And I've been able to really make my office off of those different things of using the computer and giving them a nice set of drawings and a nice finished product for the work when they hire me to do the different designs for their buildings or houses, things like that.
Yeah, and you bring back a memory, because when I was younger in my teens, I wanted to be a draftsman. So I remember my T-square, I remember my triangle, I remember working with those items, and yeah, game changer for people in your profession when computers came along and then CAD drawings came along. So let's fast forward into your career. What are some of the things that you're most proud of? Do you drive past a building and look and say, yeah, I'm that came out really well. I'm proud of the work that I did on that to design it.
Oh yes, of course. Yeah, all the jobs that I've worked on, yeah, I like the finished product of how they came out, and a lot of them I took some nice photographs of them, made a portfolio of the pictures, and that it is that is really good. The finished product of each job, and yeah, I always like to see them, and always just try to get some nice finished photographs of the
Sure.
of the pictures.
Yeah, there's so much that goes into architecture that people don't even realize, right down to the amount of windows or the size of the windows and the R factor. I'm just scraping the surface. It goes very deep. John, what are some trends right now? Let's look at residential. We'll start residential. Are there some trends that are standing out that people are asking for or that you're seeing?
Yes, there are really two big trends. One trend that has been going on for a few years now has been using these new structurally engineered I joists. These are new beams. Instead of using standard dimensional lumber, which people have been using for many years, a lot of people are switching to these I joists. And the reason is because you can span very long distances with them. You could span maybe 25 feet very easily. And I've been using these on the larger size jobs, residential jobs, and they have been going on for a while now. They work very good. They all like them, and this has been taking hold in the residential work for a while now. Then the newest trend is something brand new that I've been working on, is a new prefabricated concrete foundations. This is a new kind of foundation. It's really like a sandwich of poured concrete, metal, and rigid foam insulation. And they take these pieces and they assemble them. What they do is they take my drawings, they manufacture them off-site, then they bring them in a truck and they install them with a crane. And this is a new system. The company that we work with over here is Superior Walls, and they manufacture these and they put them in the houses, and it's really been taking hold now. It started off like the last few years, and it's just really starting to take hold. A lot of people are going with this kind of foundation.
Interesting. So now you mentioned that these foundations have insulation in them. Now, I would think that concrete would be a great insulator, let's say for a basement, for the foundation. But you're saying there's also insulation that's all part of it?
Yes, there is. It is thick, rigid insulation. Because even though the concrete might have like insulation value, really most basements, they need a little more. They need like a foam insulation, which is really good to add on some R value. And this, they sandwich the whole thing together. It's a very good system. Usually these are on houses that are somewhat expensive. I think the cost of construction is coming in. I've seen the estimates, the contract estimates is coming in on at least maybe $750,000 for these houses, but it is really working good. They like it, and this is something new. I've been working on this. This is the latest trend with these kind of foundations.
So we're talking with John Riggio. He's an amazing architect. Now, I'm wondering, how do you make that decision? Do you ask the homeowner or the person that you're designing the project for, hey, would you like to use this? This is my recommendation. How does that all work?
Yes, of course. It goes with a number of recommendations I would make. It also goes with the size of the project, how much the cost of construction is going to cost, and also there's some consideration with the contractor. What is the current trends of the construction in the area I'm working? If they're not working with poured concrete, they might be working with block foundations. And so things like this is a different consideration. So I would put together my recommendations, and that is usually how I start to formulate a design. It's mostly built on current trends, current styles, things like that. a lot of it also is built on what's available in the supply store too.
Yeah.
A lot of trends are coming out of really the supply store of what the new style is being manufactured as, and from there I could then specify that on each project.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point in terms of supply chain at this time. You know, you say the word lumber. I mentioned that to some of my friends who are in construction, and they're like, "Oh, you know, the price of lumber, the availability." So I guess that would dictate, you know, when you have a project, how you're going to design it, right?
Yes, there was a crisis recently with the supply of wood in the area, and this started to have an effect of having to maybe substitute some materials. Some I-joists were starting to go out of supply. Some lumber started to go out of supply. So that it did affect it. The prices started to go up, and I think a lot of those problems seem to have stabilized just recently. I understand the price of lumber started to come down just slightly, maybe 20%. So things are calm. But yeah, that can happen if there's a problem with the certain supply of each material, and then also with the supply of each material, maybe the cost might start to go up. The cost starts to go up too much, and then as far as the design of the project, we might have to then adjust what kind of materials we're using so that they are within the reasonable construction costs for the owner to build the project.
So I have a curious question here. The house that I'm in, I drilled into the wall thinking I'm going to hit a wood stud, but it was metal. And I didn't even know at the time as I'm trying to drill in, I'm like, how come I can't find a stud? Because every time I drilled into it, you know, to hang something on the wall, TV, whatever it was flexing every time I tried to get. And then I thought, oh, wait a minute, that's metal. There's metal there. What's the advantage of using that over wood?
Yeah, the first thing with metal was really a fire resistant rating. It's non-combustible.
Sure.
And yeah, the use of the light metal, that trend has started a while ago. They started the light metal trend. It started coming in like the 1990s.
Mm-hmm.
And it really took hold. A lot of people were using it for different things like multifamily because it's non-combustible.
Yep.
It's easier to get fire resistant ratings, things like that.
And I just want to share with you, the house was reconstructed, a lot of it. Why? Because there was a fire. So you're right on target with that.
Yes.
Very interesting. Yeah, I guess I thought about that, but I didn't know if there was other advantages that to using, you know, metal studs. Is it a common practice today?
Yes, we still use metal studs on a number of jobs. I specify it. It depends on really if there's really a need for a fire resistance rating and what kind of occupancy, what kind of use that it would make it where I would specify the metal. A lot of times, most times for metal stud, it's usually for commercial uses, for multifamily, things like that. For single family residential, it might not necessarily be really required. It depends on what kind of firewalls are involved. Sometimes if there are firewalls, you might use them with metal construction.
So we're centering on residential architecture for just a moment. When somebody wants to work with you, and by the way, we can find you at John Riggio. That's John RIGGIO.com. And congratulations on getting a domain name with your name. I wish I did that. Not always easy.
Yes, I've had that for a long time.
I'll bet. When somebody works with you, what's the easiest, best way to do that? Does somebody show you photos of what they're thinking about? How does it all work?
Yes, sometimes they might show me photos. Sometimes it's built on of houses they see in the neighborhood. They might have referenced their a project. I put a sign outside my job. Sometimes they call, they see the project, they see my name there, they call me, they say they really want to build the same kind of house. So from there, we already have an understanding of what kind of house we're working on, how it's sort of going to look, and we can go from there.
I've always seen this in front of an architect's name, RA, and you have it. What does that stand for?
Yes, registered architect.
Okay, so
I sort of like to use that. John Riggio, RA architect. I think it looks good, and with the corporation is John Riggio RA Architect LLC is the official company name.
So would that be the kind of the equitable to, let's say, if you're a surgeon and you're a board certified surgeon, that's your certification, that's your credibility, RA. Would that be the same thing for an architect?
Uh, yes, I think each profession, they usually have an initial for each one of their licenses. So that
Gotcha.
each license would have a different initial. So RA registered architect is really the official license of New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. They have what we call registered architect.
Gotcha. So let's talk about commercial construction right now. What are some of the popular trends that you're seeing or that people are asking for?
Yes, well, I've been working on a lot of different styles. A lot of them are basically contemporary styles. I think a lot of them look more like a variety of different traditional styles, Italian village styles. And right now, the projects have been getting larger and larger, with a lot more detail recently. I say a lot of the details heading into where you'd call more like an eclectic type house, has a lot of details. We're using even half stories with attics and windows and things like that. So the design has been becoming more detailed over the last few years, and that's sort of the design style. I think given the industry, knowing from working over the years that things they go up and down. Sometimes they might reach a certain point where things are becoming large and detailed, and then things might shift. They might change depending on the economy, how the building industry is. So really, that is really just like the current trend, but it might change as different things happen with materials and cost of construction, things like that.
I love the fact that you're up on all of this, and it's a moving target, especially the way our economy is and things that are ever fastly changing. Do building codes, either residential or commercial, are they changing a lot, or do they kind of remain steady?
Yes, let me show you. Yes, the building codes. What happened was originally they had some original building codes, but they had changed them slightly, and the trend was really to move to the international building code. And all of the building codes in the U.S. are slowly all under the international code, IRC, International Residential Code, and then or the IBC, International Building Code. So they're all under the international codes. They still have different codes for electrical and mechanical and plumbing, but almost all of them are under the international building code. So all of the codes that were originally just state codes that were made by different companies, they're now under the international code. So they used to have different codes in New York and New Jersey that were under the different codes, like the Boca code. They had the New York State code, but now everything is based on the international building code. That is really the basis. Now with the international building code, they started to have something where you'd buy the international building code and then it would change. Maybe 2 or 3 years later, you'd buy it again. But it seems like the building codes, they haven't upgraded them every year or 2 years. It's they might get upgraded, say maybe every on average, maybe every 5 years or something like that. They might have to upgrade the codes, and you just buy the new code books and have to review all the different changes that are made. So that's usually how it works.
Hey, John, when you're doing commercial construction, you're designing for a commercial building, what are some of the challenges you come across? Like, I would be thinking now, let's say redesigning a building and there's brick there. So you're changing out, a lot of different things. What are some of the challenges that you come across, even recently?
Yes, every project is like that. Every project is different. So every drawing is really a custom set of drawings. It takes into consider all those different things. I think right now, one design consideration we've been working on in the area here is because there were some bad storms with flooding, and the basements were cracked. Some basements were cracked, and instead of living on the lowest level, some projects we're working on where instead of living on the lowest level, we are elevating the house. We're adding on to the 2 floors onto the house. The basement foundations are getting replaced, either with new foundations, repairing them, adding onto it. So that's one design consideration I've been most recently working on. Because they had that storm, I think it was about 2 years ago in this area, and a lot of foundation walls were caved in. So that is one factor that I've been working on recently in the house designs and building designs to work on, is really that factor of where the floods had damaged the foundations.
What's the most unusual request that you've gotten that you needed to design? And I'm sure over the years, somebody said, "I want to. Can you do this? I want to do this." Anything that stands out in your mind? Like an
Yeah, I
unusual
think I
request.
have a variety of different jobs. There are all kinds of different jobs like that. I really would have to think of really like the most really like exotic type of design that someone wanted. But yeah, I've worked on all kinds of different projects. There are all kinds of
Sure.
different kinds of designs and
What
things
was
like
what
that.
was there one that was the biggest challenge for you, or maybe not the biggest, but something that was extremely challenging that somebody presented you with, where they wanted to get this done. Can you do it? And then you pulled it off. Anything like that stand out in your mind?
Oh, okay. Let me think. I can't think of anything special right now for that kind of
Yeah, no,
design.
no
I'd
worries.
have to really research it to really see what I have that
You
sounds
know what
like
that
that.
just demonstrates to me, that you are such a pro that it's not even a problem. Somebody makes a request and says, "Can you do this?" And it's like, "Yeah, I can get that done. I can do that for you. I can come up with the plans for that." How long does it usually take you? Let's say, going back to residential, designing an entire home from scratch, from a complete build, not a renovation. Typically, for an average size home, how long does it take to come up with a set of plans?
Yes. Well, that depends on really how much owner um, involvement I have on the job. But basically, to start off, the design of the job would take maybe 3 weeks to as long as maybe 3 months to
Hmm.
design, depending on how many adjustments and changes and add-ons we have to make. Then after that, the standard for a set of construction drawings of that is about 6 weeks time. And it
Okay.
could take a little longer, adding in some engineering services. Sometimes third-party services have to be put in, topographical surveys, things like that, coordinating, and then maybe add on another couple of weeks. Then after that, everything is ready to go to the contractor for the bids. Then they get the bids. There might be an adjustment depending on the cost of the construction, maybe even adding on to the project. And then they would start to get the permit and start construction.
So for what you offer, let's say it goes out to bids, do you, and for anybody that's not hasn't worked with an architect before, do you provide a cost of goods, estimates of what something should cost? Does that all come along with your services?
Yes, I can do that. It depends on how much services the client is wants for each job. I have all kinds of things. I can do cost estimate. I can do a specification book for them, and I can add on any kind of services. The most common services recently to add on is a 3D rendering of the house,
Hmm.
and I've been working on those. I have a number of these 3D renderings. This is something new because the computer generated software has improved. Where I can make a 3D rendering and it looks very photorealistic. It looks much better than years before. So that this has started to take, and I've been working on this on a number of jobs. So that is an added expense. It's still somewhat time consuming to make those drawings, and that I have to add on a separate number of weeks to have that prepared. Usually it doesn't have anything to do with the construction drawings. It's just something people want to visualize their project.
Absolutely. And I think that would be so well worth it, because then not all of us know what drawings look like, and don't have a real feel for what the eventual house or project's going to look like. So to see that in 3D, I think is powerful. I think that would be worth it for a lot of people. What's your advice when somebody's thinking of either starting from the beginning or renovating, on the commercial side or even on the residential side? What's your first advice for somebody?
Oh, okay, yes. If someone wants to renovate and as far as my services are concerned, they can call me and I can give them a basic zoning analysis, tell them what they could do with the project, how they can construct it, And then from there, they can make a decision of what they want to do. I can give them some basic ideas of cost of construction. And that's probably the best way to start off this, because really, if you were to call an architect, they would give you the basic zoning, square footage that you can construct, what kind of a building as far as its height is concerned, if you're changing uses, there are also different things like the setbacks of your property. And so all those factors are very important, and they would have to really call me, and I would have to make a full zoning analysis for them, give them a design idea, and from there they could decide to go ahead with the job.
Gotcha. Yeah, you bring up a really good point in terms of the zoning, because every area is different, every municipality, every town. I'm going to imagine that that's probably one of your bigger challenges, to keep up with what is allowed in all these different areas. What areas can you design for? What are you licensed for?
As far as the areas in the different states, or the areas of construction?
In the different states, can you work in all states, or are you just in the? I know that you're in the New York, New Jersey area. Are you just primarily able to design plans for that, or you can do anywhere in the country?
I can design anywhere in the country, but it would just require me to submit paperwork to get my license in that state.
Gotcha.
And then after you have the license in the state, you have to keep it current. So usually in this kind of work, in architect work, usually you might not want to get your license in every state, because you have to maintain the license there. Then if you're no longer using the license, you would then have to sort of put it on that you are inactive working.
Gotcha. So primarily you're licensed for New York, New Jersey. I think you said Pennsylvania too, right?
Yes, I'm licensed in Pennsylvania also, New Jersey and Pennsylvania.
Yeah. John, it's been fascinating talking with you. I had a friend who was a neighbor years ago that designed the upper level of my house before I moved into it. It was the previous family, and that's how I met him. And he's since moved away. But that's where I got kind of a feel for what you do, and I find it's fascinating. You are, when you think about it, you're changing lives, and even if it's somebody's workplace, making it easier for them, making it all happen. And if anybody wants to work with you, they just go to your website, which is JohnRiggio, RIGGIO.com, and they can find out more and even just start a dialogue and a conversation with you.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. All right, John, great talking with you. I really appreciate it.
Let's get your turn. You liked it a lot.
Thank you. All right, we'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.